Carmel upstairs, Carmel and her sister Grania, who's hiding in the corner. But I was absolutely overwhelmed with the talent of these two young ladies. And you told me go up and speak to the lady upstairs, but they sing opera and they play the flute and they play the piano, and I'm here with some great talent.
Well, you're Carmel Morgan and you're a student at St Mary's Girls' High School in Newry.
Yes.
And you're going off to university shortly, are you?
Yes, next week I'm heading up to McGee, University of Ulster, to study music.
To study music?
Yes.
That's superb. When did the music start for you?
About 12 years ago when I was 6. My mummy went to a man, Noel Mathers, and said, my daughter's looking at flute.
Yeah.
Because I've always wanted to play the flute. And my first ever teacher was Luke Burke.
Ah, the iconic Luke Burke of Newry band fame.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I started off with him and then progressed and then ended up in Noel's band, and I'm still there to this day.
Yeah. Are you musical? You look the kind of person who would be musical.
I did play the piano when I was younger, but
let me see your fingers and your hands. Oh yes, you have a pianist's hand.
I've thrown out piano fingers, but I don't play anymore. But I like to dabble.
Yeah, yeah. And you sing as well as playing the flute?
Yes, I do. I have all of my grades in singing, and there this year I was in the Ulster Youth Choir.
Yeah.
And it was very enjoyable.
You see, I share this with you, I sometimes wonder about that phrase, I have all of my grades in singing, or I have all of my grades in playing, I have all of my grades in whatever. I think singing and the playing of the flute is about, not about grades, it's about a natural feeling of holding the instrument, of moving with the instrument. It's almost an emotional thing coming from deep inside you.
Yeah.
And that kind of grades become superfluous, ingenious. Mm-hmm. You might have all your grades, but the big question is, have you the love of the instrument that makes you stand the wee bit above the others?
I don't think anybody would go through the grades if they didn't love it. They're quite difficult, but once you achieve them, you have such a sense of achievement, and it's just very enjoyable.
I suppose doing the grades at each level, it's pushing you that little bit further and seeking more from you as you go along, so that you constantly are bettering your talent and your ability, you know, drawing more out of you.
Yes, they help with like your technical ability and like your ability to like play in front of others to bring your confidence levels up.
Grades are the kind of foundation for you, are they?
Yes.
So once you've done your grades,
Yeah.
you can then let go of the safety net
Yes.
and jump off the trapeze and do it.
Yeah.
Or off the end of the diving board and, wow, there's no water in the pool.
Yes.
Your summer was great. Where did you go for your orchestral trip? It's the South, is it the Ulster Youth Orchestra?
No, the South Ulster Youth Band.
Wow, you were away in
Krakow in Poland.
Poland.
It was beautiful. We played in several cathedrals, outside venues, parks.
Beautiful.
It was very, very enjoyable.
How many's in the band?
About 65.
Wow, you played in it.
That's a lot.
Talk to me about the moment you took the flute in your hands, put it to your lips in that cathedral. What was going on in your...
It was absolutely sensational. And we played, you know Danny Boy?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
And I had the solo for Danny Boy. And just playing with the whole band behind you, it was so surreal. It was just beautiful. And then you can hear all the other parts, and whenever you put them all together, it's just unbelievable. It's very nice.
And obviously the cathedral was full. How many people did it seat?
How many people? About like 2 rows.
Two
Right.
rows.
You
Yeah.
know, not like 2 rows.
But had
Yeah.
you got it with people in it, or had you got it to yourselves?
Oh no, there was people in
You
it.
had the audience there.
Yes.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
beautiful.
Do you ever muse about your ability to play music? Like I can do many things. The last thing in the world I can do is play music, I promise you. What is it that some people have that can do it and other people just can't? It's not all about practice.
No, well, as a younger child, my parents sent us to ballet, tap, modern, Irish dancing, gymnastics, swimming. We didn't really stick at anything apart from the music.
Do you sense, therefore, that it maybe that this is a gift that has been given to you by God.
Yes.
You sense that?
Carmel was telling me they don't know where the talent has come from. All three sisters have these talents, but it doesn't, they don't, it hasn't, neither of the parents play. So it's obviously come from
What about grandparents?
another generation.
No.
Was there music anywhere in the past?
No.
You've been picked by God.
Yes.
He said, hey, you're going to play the flute, and you're going to sing opera, and you're going to play Danny Boy, and you're going to play Gabriel's oboe. And I'm God, and I'm giving this to you. Do you sense you've got a gift from God?
Yes.
Wow, it's a huge compliment he's paid you.
Yeah. Very
Well, you can
thankful.
pay us a great compliment now, because you're going to play Gabriel's oboe for us on the
Yes.
flute.
Yes.
And we're going to chill and enjoy this.
Okay.
Thank you so very, very much. We're going to enjoy this.
Sure.
Carmel Morgan. Indeed.
Thank
well
you.
done. Well
Beautiful.
done. Well done. That's so gorgeous. And the singing end of things, where does that, where do you, you're on the choir as well?
Yes.
Yeah. Where did your preference lie?
Sorry.
Your preference, where would it lie?
In the,
Either flute or singing?
oh, I would prefer the flute.
Aye, of course, of
Yes.
course. She's
Oh.
amazing, isn't she?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You mentioned Danny Boy there a moment ago.
Yes.
Please?
I don't really know it off by heart.
You don't have it. You don't have the music for it, yeah. Which is very important, you know.
And
Well, we...
sorry for interrupting you,
Not at
Ron.
all.
You said 65 young people. Are they all from the Newry area?
No, from, it's the South Ulster Youth Band, so like the
Okay.
South Ulster.
South Ulster. And I'm sure there's quite a few
Region.
from Newry because Newry is such
There's 2 buses that go from Newry to
Yeah.
Portadown on a
And
Saturday
Every
morning.
Saturday.
There's an
Every Saturday.
incredible
That's where they all
amount of
start.
talent in Newry.
Newry
You know,
Sure.
artistic and musical talent. It's
The most
wonderful.
would be from Newry.
Yeah.
In Portadown, there's 2 buses that go full.
My firstborn, Anne-Marie, she went on that bus every Saturday morning to Portadown.
Right.
And she learnt the violin, and she became good at the violin. And she has passed her skill and her talent on to Michael, her son. And it's just very, very special. Isn't it funny the way it all works out? And of course, you were at an amazing school in Newry, St. Mary's Girls' High School.
Yes, so many opportunities in St Mary's. I've really enjoyed my time there.
Yeah. And that's one of my, Judith, my grandchild, another grandchild, was the head girl there until she
Yes.
left last year. And it's a constancy of good educational experience there.
Yes.
So really, really great altogether. Well, I'm going to teach you now. I'm going to take you now into a wee story. Sean, we're going to go now. Do you remember we did something yesterday at the museum? We went to the museum yesterday where we found the busts, the head and shoulder busts of 2 great men of Newry's history. They are John Mitchell and James Martin, and they're there in the museum, donated by Michael McEwen of Crash Services, and they're actually just the beginning, if you like, of a larger sculpture that's to come, the size of the gable end of a house that's going to be somewhere in Uri. And the big trick in this is Mitchell was the tougher man. He was like the kind of violent man, whereas Martin was the smart and the romantic man. And there was the clash of the two. But oddly, they remained good friends for all of their lives.
Didn't they die something like a week apart?
A week apart,
Yeah.
and they were lifelong friends with a great adventure. But we followed that, Sean and I went up there yesterday to see what was going on at the museum. And this is what we discovered. So I hope you enjoy this. It would seem that the politics of Ireland were ever thus. Men of violence, perhaps, of radical ways. Other men of democracy and wanting progress through partnership. It's the way in the modern world. It was the way back in the 1800s, when Mitchell and Martin, two of the great Irish patriots, two of the most famous that we know of, did these things in this part of the world. They went off on other adventures, but back here in Uri, although they were politically opposed in the methods they espoused, they were forever friends. Their busts are in here now at the very heart of Newry in the museum itself. We're going to go and see them. And there they are. Look, they're together. They're the donor of the two busts of Mitchell and Martin and the recipient on behalf of the people of Newry and Mourne. They're there, and we'll find out more. Noreen Cunningham and Michael McEwen, how are you? Is it the case of a rogue and a good guy, a politician and a man of violence? Is that what we've got here?
No, I think they were both politicians. I think Mitchell spoke more violently than he ever acted, which I suppose is an incitement to roguery, etc. But in the overall of it, I think that he actually was like all force. You need a force at the extreme to pull people towards the middle, and what they had was his friend John Martin, who was actually in the middle. He didn't need pulled, but lots of other people who would have been maybe in the far conservative side get pulled a bit towards the middle. So
Would the analogy today be the SDLP and Sinn Féin? Dare one say that?
yeah, well, I've heard it a few times said that on the one hand you have a Gerry Adams and on the other hand a John Hume, which is probably the best way for us to understand it nowadays. And perhaps if John Mitchell had lived long enough, he might have moved towards the Gerry Adams position of today. As in his era, I think his extremity was required because of the extremity of the conservatism on the other side.
Hold that thought for a moment, because Noreen, you, on behalf of the people of Newry and Mourne, are the recipient of this. They now reside in a place of honour in your museum.
Yes, we're delighted to have them, and they're very important local figures in Newry and known widely nationally and internationally as well, but they're also a very nice work of art by a man called John Sherlock, who is a very well-renowned sculptor in Ireland. So we're very delighted to have work of this calibre in the museum. And it was extremely generous of Michael to commission them and then to donate them to the museum. So we're delighted.
Did you get a bit of a shock when the phone rang and said, look, I want to give you these two busts?
Yes, and we were delighted to accept them because they fit into our collecting policy, which is about people of the local area. Our remit is Newry and Mourne for collecting artefacts.
And these are particularly beautiful, and they were done by John Sherlock, Michael.
They were, yeah. I happen to know John Sherlock, but I hadn't seen him for about 40 years. When I was a student teacher, he was my art teacher. Not that I was very good at art. And then a few years after I had given up teaching, I bumped into him again because, as he will tell you, he spent some time in the licence trade. Well, my family's in the licence trade, and I was involved in negotiating buying a pub from him one time. And then I hadn't seen him again or heard of him until about 2 years ago, when we started to make inquiries as to where we could find an artist capable of doing this sort of work, and his name just jumped up because he was doing so many other prominent pieces of work in the north of Ireland.
This isn't your final dream coming true. You're on a journey, and this is only a step on the journey.
Well, what occurred was I went to see John and said that I was interested in providing some sort of mega monument for the streets of Newry. And I gave him the Book of Newry to read through, etc. And he concluded that these were two so interesting characters which he would like to get interested in and know more about. And his proposal at the outset was that we would produce some giant monument the size of a house, made of two heads, and that the heads would represent the two people of extreme views having a dialogue with each other, and a dialogue that was friendly, that there would be